was born at the end of 1952, so in 1953, once the ground thawed, my father and my grandfather broke ground on building a one-bedroom cottage on Roberts Road, which is still there. And so I've been in the community since I was an infant, and spent a lot of summers out with my grandparents, visiting the ocean, the beaches, picking blueberries, finding box turtles, all kinds of stuff. So my relationship with the community goes way back, to when I was very little, very young. It was in the later 60s, in 67, 68, 1967, 1968, when my parents decided to build a home on the other half acre next to my grandparents' house, which, it was a beautiful home. It's still there. My parents don't live there anymore, but that's where we wound up moving to. And so that was very positive. The downside of that was that as a 15-year-old sophomore in high school, I was at Brentwood High School at the time, and I had been in school at Brentwood since second grade. I was being asked to leave in the middle of the year to come out to to live in the community. And as a high school student, I was really devastated by that whole thing. I had very strong friendships I had grown. I was very active. I was in student council. I was in played football. I played baseball. I had a girlfriend. So pulling away was very difficult at that time. But as it wound up, it was really kind of a destiny that I would become established in the community as a student. And as it wound up, I've been here for many years. I mean, that was back in 1968. So you get a sense that there was something about that. At the time, I didn't know what it was, but there was a power greater than me that was bringing me out here. Well, at William Floyd High School, I was involved with the Key Club. I was involved in the Future Teachers of America club, which I knew pretty much from when I was about 14 years old that I wanted to be a teacher. My parents had two children when I was a teenager, when I was 13, when I was 15, and my ability to relate to them and my interest in wanting to be with them and care for them really made me start to reflect and realize that maybe teaching is something that I'd want to do. So so I joined the Future Teachers of America. The fact that it was mostly females in there was not was just an added benefit. But so I joined that. I was a Key Club, as I mentioned. I was editor and then sports editor of the Colonial Times. We started the Colonial Times newspaper in high school. I was involved with that. I was president of the varsity club, and I played football. I played baseball as well. So I tried to get involved in as many things as I could. We were very small then. Graduating class was about 113 students, and so I was a 1970 graduate. I went from a high school, Brentwood High School, where the graduating class was over 970 kids. So it was a little adjustment. Not only was it a different school and a different community, but size-wise, I got to know people a lot faster out here than I did when I was in Brentwood. Well, one person I would say that had a tremendous amount of influence, not only on my life in high school, but also in terms of my career, was a gentleman by the name of Al Auer. He was my physical education teacher, and was also my baseball coach. And he's the one who made me I used to be a catcher on the baseball team. He made me into a pitcher. He also influenced my thinking about going to school on athletic scholarship versus, pursuing my academic program. And if you were fortunate enough to make any of the athletic teams, then fine, but not to commit yourself to having to do that. And he had a lot of influence on me, which is exactly how I pursued it. And interestingly, when I was close to graduating, I went to Central Connecticut State University. When I was close to graduating, I came back to William Floyd, and at the time he had just been appointed assistant district principal. In those days, the district principal was the equivalent of the superintendent, so he was the equivalent of an assistant superintendent. And essentially he said that if you have as much passion for teaching as you had for baseball, then you would be a tremendous teacher. We'll put you through the process. So I interviewed with 2 principals and was very fortunate that 2 days after I graduated from college, I was offered a teaching position at William Floyd. So I will say he also said that when he heard I was pursuing administration, that he didn't think that that was a good idea, and he was kind of disappointed that I was doing that. But unfortunately, Mr. Hour's no longer with us. He passed maybe 20 years ago, but I think he would have been proud of how it all worked out in the end. I started teaching at William Floyd Elementary. That was my first year. I was in the PM session. Moriches and T. Smith were in the process of being built. My principal was Wayne Williams, who it was his first year as principal. At the following year, I was a 4th grade teacher at the time. I had a brother in the school who was a 3rd grader, so that was interesting. He was in the AM session, so we didn't really run into each other a lot. But I made him call me Mr. Casciano in the event that he did. And my little sister, who was in 1st grade at the time, she's now a school psychologist in Glen Cove. She was at Woodhull because that was a primary school. Following year, T. Smith was opened. I started teaching 5th grade there. I taught 5th grade 7 years there, so for a total of 8 years. Wayne Williams, who was my principal throughout, he's the only principal I had as a teacher. He had at some point had encouraged me to pursue administration. He thought I had leadership qualities based on some of the things that I was engaged in with the staff, and so that's what I did. I pursued administration. I got my first administrative position as assistant principal at Hobart Elementary, where I worked with Tony Bonacera as my principal. He later became the superintendent of Mount Sinai School District. I worked there for a year and change, and the principal, or director, I think she was called at the time, the director of the kindergarten, left to have a baby, and I was asked to fill in during her leave of absence. I served there for 2.5 months with the idea that, and the expectation that I would return to Hobart when she returned. She returned, and I was asked to go to Moriches Elementary. And it reminded me of the time when my parents first moved out here and how disappointed I was about having to move, and I couldn't imagine why I was being moved to Moriches. It was my 3rd school in that school year, and it was only January, and it didn't make any sense to me. I was not really very happy about it. I do what I normally do, which is I did what was expected of me, but I was extremely disappointed. But once again, it was one of those larger than me moments. It was a destiny that I didn't understand at the time, but ultimately what happened was that within a short period of time, by the end of that school year, the principal was transferred to another school, and I became the principal of Moriches. I was at Moriches for 11 years as principal, and during that time we were recognized by the state of New York for being an outstanding school. We were cited twice as a blue ribbon school by the federal government, by the United States Department of Education, and I was named National Distinguished Principal representing New York State. So once again, it was a situation where I didn't even want to go to the school, and it wound up being one of the most fulfilling professional experiences that you could have. I do say that being an elementary principal is probably the best job in education. When Rich Hawkins became superintendent in July of 1995, he asked if I would move up to district office as an assistant superintendent, which I agreed to, and came up to district office where I've been functioning ever since. I actually became interim superintendent in October 2006 when my predecessor resigned for the purpose of retirement, and I was named interim, and the board was conducting a search for a permanent replacement. And I was a candidate for the position, but in the meantime I was functioning as a superintendent, and I give the Board of Education a lot of credit because at that time the district was going through a lot of turmoil. There were a number of people who had been arrested for various infractions. Most notably were several people in the business office who had stolen money from the district. This created all kinds of havoc, a lot of bad publicity, a lot of bad press, and a lot of disappointment in the community, for that we serve. So I gave the board a lot of credit because I was in district office during that entire time. I was obviously not a part of any of that, although I was completely investigated, as you would imagine, and certainly if there were any issues, everyone would have heard about it. So I gave the board a lot of credit for not wanting to distance themselves totally from someone who was in district, and risking really being criticized by people in the community for not taking a totally different direction. As it wound up, there was a thorough search. I like to think it was an intergalactic search. I mean, some of the people who showed up had 3 eyes and 2 heads, but I seemed to be the most normal of the group and got the position. And I've extended my contract several times because of some of the challenging times. I don't think there's ever going to be a time that's not challenging for a school leader, but certainly going through the recession was incredibly challenging. Probably other than the death of a student, I would say telling really highly qualified people who are committed to helping your kids that we don't have a job for them any longer is certainly up there as some of the hardest things to do. And so I wanted to kind of lead us through and after the recession, and I was fortunate that happened. But as soon as that happened, or as that was winding down, we got hit with the reform agenda and Common Core standards and APPR and new assessments and opting out and all kinds of other things that came along with it. So I wanted to hold on long enough to kind of get us through that, and I think we're at that point right now. We're not totally through, but I know once we're through with this, something else will come down. So I think it's important to know when it's time to close the book. And someone once said it's better to leave a year early than a year late, and I don't know if it's a year early, but it's certainly early, and it's not too late. So that's where I am. Okay. Well, let me preface everything with saying that I'm very uncomfortable talking about my accomplishments, because I really believe that an effective leader only accomplishes things through being able to work collaboratively and with the ability to distribute leadership. Everyone has the capacity to be a leader, depending on the situation, and everyone should have the capacity to be a follower, because in certain circumstances, there's someone who knows better and has a better sense of the situation, and they should be the ones who are taking the charge. and a good leader knows when to follow. So I have had the great fortune in my 41 years of William Floyd to be surrounded by really talented people, not only and especially the ones who are employed by the district, but also people in the community, tremendously supportive parents, and our kids are really amazing as well. So again, I've prefaced everything with it's very difficult for one person in a large organization to be really the responsible party for things happening. I'm also not a credit grabber, which is not something I'm comfortable with. I believe that we're all responsible, and if everybody does their part, that's how an organization achieves great things. I think the first thing that I'm most proud of that was accomplished during the time I was superintendent was the fact that we did restore public confidence in the district. We've been able to pass budgets, and some of them have been very challenging, as you know, but we were able to do that. We did it throughout the recession, which was the most challenging time for our community. And we were able to approve a large capital improvement project, the Excel project, in December 2007, which was immediately after those difficult times that we were facing. So at a time when public confidence was probably at its lowest, we went out with a $41 million. I keep forgetting the numbers at the because it's a while ago, but it was a multi-million-dollar capital improvement project and got the support from the community. So I was very proud of that, and some great things have happened as a result of that, including but not limited to our career and technical education program, which we're extremely proud of. Probably what I'm most proud of, though, is the graduation rate. And although I'm not satisfied with what the graduation rate is at this time, I have to look at the data and say, you know what, we went from approximately 60%, which was the June of 2006 before I became superintendent, to 80%. So we've had a 20% improvement over that time, and that again is the effort of everyone. Starting right at pre-K, we have a large pre-K program with our kindergarten staff right through to our teachers who are working with our 12th graders. So that's been a real team effort, and we're still not satisfied at 80%. I'd love to see 85% by the end of this year, and like to see us consistently in the 90s. So that I'm leaving that for my successor to take the torch and keep going with that. Well, superintendent really needs to be part of the community. We depend on the community. We serve the community, and you need to be receptive. You need to be a listener, and the only way you can really do that is to be out and about. So, I have tried throughout my career, even before I was superintendent, to participate in a variety of things, attend celebrations from different organizations. I've had the good fortune of being part of a member of the Rotary Club, and I'm currently the past president, and they're involved in a number of wonderful initiatives, including the food pantry and supporting organizations that help, like St. Jude's Outreach, Columbia Youth and Family Services, the Community Library. We support Gift of Life, which assists children who have medical challenges and can't get the medical care they need in the countries that they reside in. So there's that whole Rotary piece. I'm very involved in the William Floyd Alumni Association, which also supports a number of worthy causes and also helps with school-related causes. They support CTE students who can't afford the materials to successfully participate in those programs. They have a kindergarten program where we provide kindergarten supplies to classrooms. and things like that. I'm also involved in a number of organizations to try to help the cause. For example, Refit. It's to really get more equity in state aid to support communities that need the support. Involved in Section 11, which is the athletic organization that governs high school sports and just public school sports throughout Suffolk County. I'm on their executive board as well. So, I'm trying to balance, influencing, being part of the decision making of things that influence things that happen here at William Floyd, but also not, extending myself to the point where, I'm not doing everything I can specifically for William Floyd here, on site. My plans are, I don't want people having all these wonderful high expectations of me, because then I won't feel like I'm retiring. I feel like, I'm just leaving one responsibility and going to another with everybody expecting me to do this, and that. So, I've been talking to a lot of people who have been retired and trying to get their advice and guidance, and they say, you know what, just do what you want to do what you like to do, and so I reflect. And of course, I've grown up being a productive citizen. That's what I like to do. So I gotta have to find a balance, and I don't know, because I've never been retired before. Since I was 4 or 5, I started school, and it's been demanding ever since. So, and I'm a lot older now. I'm going to be 62 next week. So, it's going to be a new experience. I'm really excited about it, and I'm trying not to have too high an expectation so that I don't disappoint myself. But anyway, to be more specific, I love to help people. I expect to continue to help people, whether it's in a paid capacity or an unpaid capacity, because I do both. And so I expect to be helping people in paid and unpaid capacities. I love to teach administrative courses, and I was teaching administrative courses up to the time I became superintendent. And then, because of the demands of the job, it was just not, possible for me to continue. So I've already been contacted by the college to go back to teach, which I definitely plan to do that. I do love to write, and I already have a few book ideas in mind. Some of them are serious, some of them are quite light, but I already have a few ideas in mind. And the first one will be about my dad, and so I got to do that one soon. He's 90, so that's going to be my first work, and that's it. I'm going to be better at taking care of the house, and mowing the lawn and doing stuff that I don't even have time to do in my current capacity. So, but I'm just looking to enjoy it, enjoy my family. I've always been a traveler, so I'll continue to travel. I have one granddaughter, and I have another granddaughter who's due in December, so that'll be a lot of fun. So just I want to go to Starbucks at 10 o'clock during the day when with my iPad, and I just want to sit at a table with a cup of coffee. Because anytime I ever go to Starbucks during the day and I see people sitting there all day, I'm like, what are they doing? How do they have time to do that? So I just want to do that. I want to sit there with the iPad and look like I'm doing stuff. I don't know. I might be, doing some online shopping, maybe checking my Facebook page. Who knows? My fantasy football team. But just sitting there, sipping my coffee. Not a lot. Just once in a while to do that. Hang out with my father a little bit, do stuff.